I was treated like disposable trash while my sister took everything. But when Grandpa left me $500,000, I activated a legal trap that unraveled their entire scheme and forced them to finally face the fallout they tried to dump on me. I'm a 28-year-old male who comes from one of those families where favoritism wasn't subtle. It was loud and obvious. Since my sister Amy was born, it's been all about her. I was 3 when she showed up, and apparently that was the end of my main character era. When I was 5 and she was 2, my parents threw her a backyard blowout. Bouncy house, petting zoo, clowns, face painter, the works. For my birthday that same year, a frozen Walmart cake and dinner at Chuck E. Cheese. I still remember standing there with my party hat thinking, wait, what? It stayed like that. Amy always got new toys, name-brand clothes, and attention. I remember saving allowance for nearly a year to buy myself a basic mountain bike. Amy saw it, cried for 5 minutes, and boom. The next day she had one that made mine look like trash. Hers had tassels and a basket. Mine didn't even have real brakes. School wasn't any better. My parents showed up to every one of Amy's events, dance recitals, spelling bees, choir concerts, even when she just stood in the back row. Me? They missed my science fair win and showed up an hour late to the play where I had the lead. Their excuse? Amy had a headache. Spoiler, she didn't. They'd lost track of time playing with her. I wasn't lazy or anything. I was a straight-A kid, math club, science team, the whole nerd package. Not because I loved it, but because I thought maybe they'd finally notice me. Meanwhile, Amy barely passed classes, skipped homework, hung out with some TikTok wannabe crew, and got praised for bringing home a B-. They took her out to dinner for that. Me? I got a cool and a nod when I won regionals in science. Junior year, I got picked for a Harvard summer program. Big deal, right? Only 2 students from my school were chosen. I printed the email, showed it off at dinner, and my dad just said, "When's Amy's recital again?" My mom said, "That's nice," and immediately went back to talking about Amy's dress. I should have told the neighbor's dog instead. They couldn't even drive me to the airport for that trip. Said they didn't want to miss Amy's recital. I had to hitch a ride with my friend's parents, sitting in the back seat thinking, if this was Amy, she'd be getting a goodbye party and balloons. Then came college apps. I went all out. Essays, test prep, interviews, everything. Got into 5 good schools. My top pick even gave me a scholarship. I told them at dinner and my dad said, "Don't let it go to your head. College isn't everything." My mom added, "Anyone can get into college. It's not that big of a deal." Meanwhile, Amy barely finished high school and didn't go to college. My parents were proud of you for knowing yourself. They bought her a car as a graduation gift. I had to Uber everywhere when I was home from school. And no, they weren't just not into academics. They just weren't into me. That was always the deal. Amy got praise and support. I got passive-aggressive jabs or silence. Once my dad said I was trying too hard and making Amy feel bad. By 24, I had a solid job in finance. Not crazy rich, but enough to get my own place. I called them all excited. My dad just said, "Don't forget where you came from. No, we're proud." Nothing. Amy, still living at home, working part-time at a coffee shop, figuring things out. They still paid her bills and treated her like royalty. I thought I was the problem for a long time. Like maybe I wasn't lovable, or was too distant. I started therapy in college, and it helped a ton. I realized I'd been chasing approval I was never going to get. They made their choice a long time ago. Amy was the favorite. I was the background character. But then my grandpa passed away, and that's when things started shifting, because grandpa actually saw me. He remembered the science fairs, the awards, the effort. When his will got read, it reflected that. Only problem, my parents didn't like that one bit. When Grandpa passed, it hit me hard because he was one of the few people in the family who actually seemed to care what I was doing with my life. He asked questions, remembered stuff I told him, actually gave a crap. Like when I got that internship freshman year, he mailed me a handwritten letter congratulating me and included a $100 bill folded like origami. I still have that paper eagle in a drawer. Anyway, he was a sharp guy, built his own business from scratch, worked every day into his 70s, and was just one of those no BS men who respected effort more than titles. So when we found out he left behind a big chunk of money, I figured he'd divide it pretty fairly. Turns out I was right. In his will, he split his estate evenly across his kids and grandkids. My dad got a share, Amy got one, I got one. All the cousins too. I was stunned when I found out my share was about $500,000. Real money. Enough to wipe out my student loans, maybe buy a better place, maybe even start something of my own down the line. I was still processing it when the will was officially read. We were all sitting in my uncle's office, lawyer there, everything formal. My parents were stiff the whole time, but I figured they were just emotional.
Then afterward, my mom pulls me aside.
My dad right behind her with that weird look he gets when he's about to try something sketchy. She goes, "So, don't you think it would make more sense if Amy got your share?" I thought she was joking. I legit laughed. Bad move. They were dead serious. My dad jumps in. "She needs it more than you. You're doing well. She's struggling." I said, "Yeah, I'm doing well because I worked for it. Grandpa made this choice, not me. It's not mine to give away." That set them off. My mom pulled the "we raised you" guilt card. My dad said, "You wouldn't even have gotten where you are without us paying for your braces and letting you live at home during college." Like, what? That's the bare minimum parenting, man, and I still had to work part-time and pay rent while living there. I reminded them they bought Amy a car, paid for her trips, clothes, whatever she wanted. They're still paying her cell phone. Meanwhile, I've been paying my own bills since 19. But they wouldn't drop it. They said I was being selfish, that I was tearing the family apart over money. I said, "No, you're trying to rewrite a will because you don't like how it turned out." My dad told me to watch my mouth and said I was disrespecting the dead by arguing about what Grandpa wanted. That's when things started to feel off. Real shady. My dad was the executor of the will, which meant he was in charge of handling it. A few days later, I get a weird call from my cousin saying my dad told the family he might adjust the shares so Amy gets more. So I call him and ask what the hell is going on. He tells me he's considering a redistribution that reflects each grandchild's situation, like he's a judge or something. He literally said Grandpa would have wanted Amy to be supported more if he understood how difficult life has been for her. I'm sorry. What? Grandpa did understand. He wasn't clueless. He saw that I was working, paying bills, trying to build something. He also saw Amy floating through life waiting for a winning lottery ticket. So I asked Dad, if Grandpa really felt that way, why didn't he just write the will like that? My dad didn't have an answer, just said he trusted me to do the right thing. I started getting this pit in my stomach. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was straight up theft. He was going to take my inheritance and hand it to Amy. No discussion, no permission. Just rewrite history because Amy needs it more. And Amy? She didn't even look shocked when I confronted her. I pulled her aside, asked what she thought about all this, and she just shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best. I don't want to get involved." Of course she doesn't. Why would she? She's about to get a free $500,000 bonus for doing nothing. So there I was, sitting in my car like a zombie after hearing my dad was trying to hijack my $500,000 inheritance. My hands were shaking. I don't even remember if I locked the car that night. Next morning, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something. There's no way my dad could actually pull this off legally, right? But he was the executor, and he's smug enough to think he could get away with anything if he said it with enough fake concern in his voice. We're just helping Amy. That's when I decided to call Grandma, my grandpa's widow. I didn't want to drag her into it, but I was losing my mind and needed someone sane. Man, I was not ready for what she told me. She didn't even hesitate. I barely got the story out before she cut me off with, "Your grandfather would be livid right now." Then she dropped this bomb. Apparently, years ago, my parents tried to get Grandpa to rewrite the will to give everything to Amy and spare me since I was already successful. My dad made it sound like I was some Wall Street tycoon and Amy was living on scraps. Total manipulation. Grandpa didn't fall for it. Not even close. He saw right through them and added a clause. Anyone who tries to mess with or contest the distribution forfeits their own share. No games, no second chances. And then she dropped the nuke. My dad never told anyone else in the family about that clause. Not his siblings. Not even Amy. He just assumed no one would read the fine print, and he could do whatever he wanted. But Grandpa had mailed physical copies of the will to the other CO executors just in case someone tried to pull a stunt. You could hear the rage boiling under Grandma's voice. She wasn't just mad, she was done. She said, "We're putting a stop to this right now." I barely hung up before my phone started lighting up like Christmas. Grandma must have called everyone. My uncle, my aunt, Grandpa's lawyer, her bridge partner, the whole bloodline. By the afternoon, my dad's siblings were in full battle mode. My uncle called me and said, "I knew he'd try something like this. Always was a sneaky bastard." I was like, damn, okay, gloves off, I guess. Later that night, I get a call from my dad. "No hello, no how are you." He just launches in, "I heard you've been spreading lies to the family." I said, lies? You were literally trying to reassign my inheritance like it's some Amazon wish list. Then he snaps, this isn't about the money. It's about doing the right thing for Amy. I said, the right thing according to you, not Grandpa. You remember him, right? The guy whose will you're screwing with? And then this gem, well, if you weren't being so difficult, I wouldn't have to go to these lengths. Like I'm the bad guy for not handing over $500,000. That's when I heard my mom in the background shouting, tell him he's out of the family if he keeps this up. Out of the family for keeping what was legally left to me. Real nice. I hung up. Waste of breath. Then the real insanity started. The next day, I went to check my bank account. Not because I expected money yet, just to be sure. And guess what? My account was frozen. I immediately called the bank. They told me someone submitted documentation to halt distribution pending review of updated estate executor instructions. What the hell does that even mean? I started piecing it together. My dad had submitted documents claiming the distribution plan needed to be revised due to new familial needs. He tried to lock up my share while figuring out how to slide it over to Amy without triggering the contest clause. Probably thought if he held it long enough, I'd cave. But what he didn't know was that Grandma had already handed over copies of the original will, including that lovely clause, to the lawyer and the backup CO executors. And the best part? Grandpa made two of my dad's siblings co-executors with him. My dad was just the primary point of contact, not the sole authority. So when Grandma, Uncle Steve, and Aunt Marcy rolled into that lawyer's office with Grandpa's notarized, ironclad will and receipts from years of shady favoritism, the whole updated instruction plan blew up in my dad's face. My uncle later told me the lawyer's assistant came in with a folder of my dad's handwritten proposed amendments, including a ridiculous line about reallocating for mental health and housing support for the dependent sibling, aka give everything to Amy and throw me a sympathy thank you card. Grandma looked the lawyer dead in the face and said, execute the will exactly as written, and if he tries anything else we'll take it to court. And she meant it. The lawyer nodded and immediately sent out a notice. Distributions would proceed as originally intended, and any delays or reallocation efforts would be treated as a breach of fiduciary duty. Boom. 3 days later, I got my money, not a cent short. You'd think that would be the end. But, oh no, my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, and there they were, standing on the porch like two disappointed managers who caught their employee taking a break. My dad starts with, so, this is what you've become? I didn't even invite them in, just leaned on the doorframe and said, you drove 40 minutes for that. Then my mom says, you made us look like thieves to the entire family. I said, I didn't make you look like anything, you did that yourselves. They both started ranting about how Amy was cooled, how they felt betrayed, how I turned everyone against them. They called Grandma senile, Uncle Steve vindictive, and the whole family ungrateful. It was like watching toddlers blame everyone else after getting caught with cookie crumbs on their faces. I said, you tried to rob me, got caught, and now you're mad people know. That's on you. My dad stepped forward and said, you better be careful. Families remember things like this. And man, I finally snapped. I said, you're right, I will remember this. Every time you chose Amy over me. Every time you acted like I was just an extra mouth to feed. And now you tried to erase me from Grandpa's legacy. You lost the right to call me family when you made stealing from me your hill to die on. Then I shut the door. They stood there for a second. I watched through the peephole as my mom cried and my dad clenched his jaw. Then they left. Haven't heard from them since. Amy sent one fake tone text. I didn't ask for this. I'm sorry things got messed up. No, I'll give back the money. No, I tried to stop them. Just classic Amy shrugging in text form. So yeah, I got my inheritance. I also got a lot more. I got proof that I was never crazy, never overreacting, that their favoritism wasn't subtle, it was dangerous. I got my peace of mind, a support system of extended family who finally saw through the BS, and freedom. Not just financial, emotional, mental. And no amount of guilt-tripping or gaslighting can take that back. However, after they left my doorstep, I thought maybe that was the end, like I got my inheritance, told them off, and now we all crawl into our separate corners and sulk like normal dysfunctional people. But nope, that would have required a tiny bit of self-awareness, and these two had the emotional maturity of a dented microwave. 3 days later, I get a certified letter. Not an email, not a phone call. An envelope hand-delivered like a cease and desist from Disney. I open it up and it's this long-winded family resolution agreement, written by someone who definitely thinks they're the hero of a courtroom drama. Basically said that due to changing family dynamics, and in the interest of unity, all liquid assets inherited should be consolidated into a family-managed trust fund. And guess who was listed as the trustee? My dad. I laughed so hard I choked on my coffee. Dude tried to straight-up scam me again, on paper this time, after losing, after getting smacked down legally, after already embarrassing himself to the entire extended family. I called Grandma immediately. She was already fuming. Turns out she got the same letter. My aunt and uncle too. My dad had mass-mailed the thing like some toxic newsletter. Grandma told me not to respond. She was already on the phone with her lawyer. But me? I wasn't about to let this one go quietly. So I scanned that letter and posted it in the family group chat. All of it. I added, just a reminder, this man tried to steal $500,000 and got caught. Now he wants us to voluntarily hand over the money anyway. Chaos. My aunt replied, is he high? Uncle Steve followed up with, I will throw this man off a bridge. Even one of the cousins who usually stays out of stuff just replied with a popcorn emoji. Turns out, my dad had been calling other relatives individually trying to spin the story. He told them I manipulated Grandma, threatened legal action never happened, and that Amy was having panic attacks because of my hostility. Like, dude, Amy's having panic attacks? I've been gaslit and emotionally railroaded since I was in diapers, and you didn't blink.
And another twist. One of my XEO workers, Mike, pulled me aside at lunch and said,
Hey man, weird question, but are you okay? He showed me a message on LinkedIn from an anonymous profile, but the language was familiar. It was this long rant about me being unstable, greedy, and threatening my family with legal blackmail. It even said he exploited his grandfather's death for personal gain. Bro, I hadn't even told Mike about the inheritance. That's when I realized my dad had gone full scorched earth. He was trying to smear me publicly, probably thinking he'd shame me into backing down. Too bad I don't back down. I sent screenshots to my lawyer. Yes, I have one now. It turns out when your parents try to embezzle your inheritance, it's smart to keep legal backup. My lawyer said if we could confirm my dad was behind the LinkedIn messages, it would count as defamation. But we didn't even get that far because things imploded faster than expected. My dad's siblings scheduled an intervention dinner. Their words, not mine. They invited my parents, Amy, me, and Grandma, saying we were going to clear the air face to face. I showed up mostly for the popcorn.
We met at my aunt's house. Big dining room, long table like the final scene in a mafia movie.
My dad walks in like he owns the place. My mom follows, lips pursed like she's ready to scold a waiter. Amy glued to her phone. Classic. It started civil for about 5 seconds. Then my uncle said, We've all had enough of this. You tried to take your son's inheritance. You lied to us. You lied to the lawyer. What do you have to say? My dad? I did what I had to do for my family. Uncle, you tried to steal from your own son. Dad, that money was never really his. It was a family asset. He just got lucky his name was on it. That set Grandma off. She slammed her hand on the table and said, Your father chose him because he worked for it. He earned every penny of that respect. You tried to rewrite that because you can't accept that your golden child didn't earn hers. My mom snapped back, Amy has had emotional struggles. You don't know what it's like to raise a child who's sensitive and creative. Aunt Marcy rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. Sensitive doesn't mean entitled. She's 25 and you still do her laundry. Then Amy, out of nowhere, pipes up like she's in a bad teen drama. You all just hate me because I'm not a robot like him. I said, nah, we're just mad you stood by while they tried to steal from me. That's not creativity. That's cowardice. Silence. Then my dad does the final boss move. He stands up and goes, You think this is about money? This is about respect. We gave you life. We raised you. Without us, you'd be nothing. You owe us. That's when everything snapped into place. They didn't want money. They wanted ownership, control. They saw everything I built as theirs because they brought me into this world, like parenting with some investment with expected returns. So I said it. You don't get lifelong payment for doing the bare minimum. You fed me, clothed me, and treated me like crap the whole time. I don't owe you for surviving that. My dad was red in the face. My mom looked like she was going to faint. Amy was silent. I stood up, dropped my napkin on the table, and walked out. 10 minutes later, I got a text from Grandma. Proud of you. I'll handle the vultures. She did. The next week she changed her will. My parents removed completely. She told me she didn't want them getting a cent if they were willing to destroy the family over greed. She even told Amy, "Grow up or you're next." Side twist. Turns out Amy didn't just shrug her way through this. After the failed trust plan, she tried to get a loan using her share as collateral, even though she'd already gotten her cut. When the bank called to verify, it triggered a check with the estate attorney who flagged it. Now she's under review for potential fraud. Idiot. Last I heard, my dad is being investigated by the family lawyer for breach of executor duties. If he's found guilty, he'll have to repay legal fees and possibly lose his share too. From what Grandma told me, he's sweating bullets. So yeah, they tried to ruin me. Instead, they ruined their own credibility, and I walked out richer in money, peace, and self-respect. They always said family comes first. I just stopped pretending that included me. After that dinner-turned-intervention exploded like a microwaved egg, you'd think the story was over. The entitled parents got exposed, Amy looked dumb, Grandma cut them out of her will, justice served. Roll credits. Nope, these people don't quit. The very next morning I woke up to 11 missed calls, all from an unknown number. My voicemail was full. Finally, a blocked number calls again. I answer. "Hi, this is Elizabeth from Westbrook Federal Credit Union. Are you available to verify some loan application details for your joint inheritance disbursement?" Me? Joint what now? Yeah. Amy had tried to take out a personal loan using my inheritance, again, even though the estate was already paid out and settled. She told the bank she and I were co-beneficiaries of a shared trust fund, which isn't even a thing, and submitted a forged letter naming my dad as trustee. She actually photoshopped an old legal letterhead and made up her own document. I almost choked on my cereal. I told the credit union lady I had no joint anything with Amy and asked her to send me the docs. I forwarded them straight to the family lawyer. Turns out, Amy hadn't just been clueless. She committed full-on fraud. And here's the kicker, she'd listed me as a co-signer without telling me. That's when it became criminal, not just drama. The lawyer jumped on it. He contacted the estate lawyer who called the credit union, who escalated it immediately to their legal team. I had to submit a formal affidavit to clear my name, which I did in like 30 minutes. I wasn't going to let that tick like a time bomb on my credit. Then it spiraled. Amy must have realized she messed up because suddenly she's texting me in all caps, panicking. "Why are you doing this? It was just a loan I needed for my business. Dad said it was our money anyway. You're ruining everything." I didn't reply. Just screenshots to the lawyer. But wait, there's more. Apparently this wasn't Amy's first rodeo. My cousin told me she'd tried something similar 2 years ago, opening a joint savings account under both their names and funneling Grandma's birthday money into it without permission. My cousin shut it down fast but never brought it up because it felt petty. Yeah, not petty now. So now we've got a paper trail of Amy making fake accounts, forging docs, and weaponizing family ties for money. The best part? My dad backed it. When the lawyer called him about the forged trust letter, my dad said it was an internal family matter and refused to answer questions. He actually said, "My son is just bitter. He doesn't understand sacrifice." No, I understand sacrifice. I sacrificed every ounce of respect I had for y'all. Does that count? Grandma caught wind of the whole thing and lost it again. She called Amy and laid into her so hard my cousin said Amy cried for 45 minutes straight and locked herself in the basement. Grandma told her, "You were given a second chance and you tried to cheat again. I'm done pretending you're a victim." Then came the fallout. First, the credit union flagged Amy for loan fraud. Then the estate lawyer sent an official letter saying her actions breached the inheritance terms. She had to return a small portion of her inheritance that hadn't been spent yet or face legal action. My Uncle Steve offered to help by selling her MacBook on Facebook Marketplace. He was kidding, I think. And then, my dad got a notice from the State Bar Association. Turns out someone name rhymes with Grandma submitted a complaint saying he misused his role as executor to manipulate inheritance decisions and tried to influence financial institutions with false documents. He wasn't a lawyer, but it still triggered an inquiry. He's now officially barred from serving as executor on any future estate cases in the family, and potentially beyond if it escalates. My mom tried damage control by sending everyone handwritten snail mail letters calling it a miscommunication, said tensions were high and that I had twisted the narrative. One of my cousins read it out loud in the family group chat. It ended with, We forgive you and hope you forgive us. We forgive you, bro. You tried to scam me, smear me, and now you're acting like I was the aggressor. But they weren't done yet. That same week, my dad showed up at my workplace, walked straight into the lobby of the financial firm I work for like he was there for a job interview. The receptionist called up, "Hey, your dad's here." I nearly passed out. I came down and found him standing in the middle of the lobby, arms crossed like he was my boss. He goes, "We need to talk." I said, "No, we don't." He says, "You're destroying your mother. She hasn't slept in days." I said, "Good. Neither did I when you tried to steal from me." Then he pulls this line I'll never forget. "You should be ashamed. You don't air dirty laundry in public. Family is sacred." I said, "Then stop trying to launder money using my name." Security came over and asked if he needed to leave. I told them yes. He huffed and walked out like I'd just fired him from a company he never worked at. After that, radio silence from all of them. Amy deleted her social media. My mom stopped writing letters. My dad hasn't shown up anywhere since. Word is he's laying low while trying to rebuild his image with the rest of the family, but most of them are done. Nobody's buying what he's selling anymore. I've gotten texts from cousins I barely talk to saying, "Yo, respect for standing up to all that. You were right all along." Even one of Amy's friends DM'd me on Instagram. I used to feel bad for her. Not anymore. Feels weird. I'm not used to being believed, let alone supported. For most of my life I was the invisible one, the afterthought. Now suddenly I'm the one who exposed everything. But I'm not proud of this. Yeah, I'm glad the truth came out and they got held accountable, but I'm still kind of grieving the idea that I ever had a family to begin with. What I had was a system, one built around one kid who could do no wrong, and another who had to earn every breadcrumb of love. I broke the system, and now the people who ran it are pissed it doesn't work anymore. I haven't blocked them or anything, but I turned off red receipts. I don't answer texts. I don't engage with fake apologies. I'm done explaining myself to people who never listened in the first place. I got the money, used it smart, paid off debt, stacked savings, bought a car. Every dollar reminds me Grandpa saw me when no one else did. Amy screwed herself. Tried to scam a loan, got flagged for fraud. She's working some retail job now, whining about family betrayal. No one's buying it. Parents? Evicted. Grandma owned the house they were living in, sold it out from under them, and used the money to start a scholarship in Grandpa's name, one that specifically helps kids who earn it. They tried to guilt me, manipulate me, control me. Now they rent a condo and nobody in the family wants anything to do with them. Grandma calls me every Sunday. We talk about regular stuff, peaceful stuff. Sometimes she brings up Grandpa and says, "He'd be proud of you for standing your ground." I haven't talked to my parents or Amy since. No calls, no texts. I blocked their nonsense. And you know what? I don't miss them. Not even a little. They always acted like I was lucky to be part of the family.